Welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian, an ultra running conversation. Simon, how are you doing?
Brian, I'm doing great. I feel young and fit again. My training, I think, is working very well. The other day, I went for a tempo run. I was at 8.5 miles per hour for about an hour, like that. I felt I was flying out there. I was feeling good. I was feeling strong. I was like, yeah, I'm going into 2025 fitter than ever until I start all of my races and then I crumble again. How about yourself, Brian? How are your knees?
My knees are good. My knees are good. Our previous guest, Kyle Kuhn, I was telling you offline, Kyle Kuhn from a previous episode is in town, and I ran with him yesterday. And man, that guy's fit. We got a decent run in on the bike path. We ran about 8-minute miles, 9 of them out and back, navigating some icy spots on the trail. So good times with Kyle. I do have some Achilles work that I need to get done. I think next week I will be getting a cortisone injection
Hmm.
because I got bursitis in my heel. A pretty severe case of bursitis is what the MRI came back and said. So that's the next step. So I am trying to get some fitness or keep some fitness going through the process, and I'll kind of let the cortisone do its deal, hopefully, and hopefully we could just walk away from that and move on, which what I would love. But you never know how these things are, so it'll be a process and a journey, like any other. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Yeah, I hope you get better soon. I mean, I guess it's kind of a ripple effect a little bit from Leadville and then eventually Moab. But yeah, I mean, take care of yourself. That's the perfect season to actually heal up. Actually, based on when this episode comes out, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go on Instagram or Facebook right now, what's freaking everywhere are the Strava year recap. How was
Mm-hmm.
your year? How was 2024 for you?
Man, I crushed it. I did 20. I did 2,000. I don't know, 2,200. I think 2,300 miles this year. I did 285 feet of vertical gain. Simon, did you do 285,000 feet?
Brian, I actually, since you're quoting real number, I'm gonna bring mine too. I actually had a pretty good year. Mostly an increase from last year. I did 4,000 miles. I'm actually at 4,007
Holy
miles.
smokes!
I was slow though, but that does count races like Tour des Géants where I was going at 2 miles per hour or even slower. And I did a whooping huge amount of elevation gain, at least for me, which is 566,000 feet of gain. And I think I was in the mountain quite a lot. I think it's a respectable amount of elevation gain.
Five. That's a half a million feet.
That is 500,000, yes, which is a huge
That
number.
that's a giant number. Gosh, I wonder what that would equate to per day.
That's a good question. I did not do the math, but I could make the math based on the guest that we had today, though.
That's right. We just got off the call with Emily Keddie. She did more vert than both of us combined. Let's just get to it. She challenged herself in early February with a 2 million foot gained in the year. And she hit that mark a couple days ago. It's pretty dang amazing. We did do the math on this one, though. And what was it, Simon? Was it 5,500, I think?
About 5,500. And I think, based on the trend that she's going at right now with like days above 10,000, I think she's going to reach at least 2.2 million feet of elevation gain
Oof.
for people in the metric system. For you cummies out there, that's about 70,000 meter. 70,000 meter. Did I do the
um,
math right? No,
I
I
don't
think I'm
know.
doing
I
it
don't
wrong.
know.
700,000. What the hell am I saying?
Yeah, 70,000.
700,000
Yeah,
meter. That's crazy. That's
that's a
that's
lot.
700. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I got the calculator out because now I got another idea. What is 2 million divided by 30,000? We're going to round up. It is 67,000 Mount Everests.
That is a lot.
That might be
That's
wrong. That might be wrong. I don't know. Is that right?
there's a rule, a golden rule when it comes to when you're doing filming or podcasts is that you should never do math live because you're gonna screw it up. and I'm sure we did screw it up, but it is 700,000 meter, which is absolutely insane. And I think what's really impressive about something like that, these numbers are very abstract for me. The 5,500 a day is less abstract, but it sounds like it's not that much. Like, of course, I can do 5,000 in a day, but that's the average. You need to do that every single day. You need to be consistent all the time. And it's not easy to always find 5,000 feet of gain. Like, I can't do that every day unless I drive somewhere or I find a mountain or I do some hill repeat nonstop. So you really got to be sniping for these to some extent. You find the steepest trail and you do that all the time every day. Well, I mean, there will be rest, but you can't slow down, because if you
Yeah,
take
I mean, you could get a rest day, but tomorrow you got to do 11,000. I mean, like, so it's going to compile on you. And I think we did the math. Again, more math that we shouldn't do online, but I thought we did like 37,500 a week, which does sound manageable. But again, it's 52 weeks in a row. And Emily nails it. She was a great guest. She was fun to talk to. We dived down a rabbit hole in the beginning about a decent one too, about the Pacific Crest Trail and how she found her roots in ultra running on the Pacific Crest Trail. Yeah, so it was great to listen to her story and her journey and how she's gotten here. And she's not afraid of anything.
Yeah, I think it was great. You're right. She's not afraid of big challenge. Saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna do 2 million." And we talk a lot about numbers, but I think numbers are really missing the point, especially of this discussion. That was a great discussion. I think it was a very relatable how she got into the sport, how that was a good avenue for her. Her, starting with hiking, eventually running, longer distance, pushing herself, pushing her limits, but still being very humane and yeah, I think she had a lot of great stories and was a very positive and having a great discussion with her.
We just got off the call with her, and she hit the mark just a couple days before this. But she's still going because she has another challenge for December where she's trying to win a free pair of shoes or something, something crazy like that in Aravipa's Vertmas. It was great reconnecting with Emily. I met her a long time ago in Moab, and then I saw her last year, 2023, at Javelina, and we hung out in costume for quite a bit. So it was always nice to connect with her. Check her out. She is doing amazing things in the community. And without further ado, here is Emily Keddie. Enjoy. Hey, Emily, thanks for coming on the show this evening. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm good. I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be a little bit tired. You've had a busy week, a busy month, and a busy year. Man, that is right on cue. We had a little technical difficulties, but we're charging hard right now. So welcome to the show. I really want to talk about your last year and the goal that you set out for yourself and accomplished just 2 days before this recording. But we always like to start by backing up and talking about how you got into this space, how you got into ultra running, what brought you here, and how did you find yourself in this crazy world?
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for having me. I How I got here. I started ultra running basically after I thru hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, so back in 2016. And after that, it's kind of become a pretty common transition after thru hiking to start getting into ultras and especially the really long ones. But I did my first 50K just from the encouragement of another thru hiking friend back in 2018, I think it was. And then um, was kind of astounded that people run that far and that I could run that far. And ran a 50 miler and then went to Javelina and tried 100 miles. And it just took off from there. And I have always had a personality that lends itself to like full on just take, the biggest, longest thing, you know, do difficult things just to see if I can. And, and so I think it just suits my personality. But yeah, it escalated quickly, and I have never looked back.
So no more through hiking though?
Not yet. I mean, I always thought that I would. Immediately after I finished the PCT, I was dying to do more. Um, you know, you have to plan it in your life and design your life,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, for the activities you really want to do if you're fortunate enough to do so. And I've been very lucky to design my life to do what suits me now, which is very different from who I was back in 2016. Um, I still do love backpacking. First and foremost, above running, above ultra running, just for weeks at a time. That is by far my favorite thing to do. But I'm pretty content with what I'm able to do with backpacking right now. I'm sure at some point I'll do more through hiking, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate to that personally. I prefer hiking over trail running, but for the practical reason, if you want to cover a big distance and you only have a weekend, well, trail running you can cover so much more. But I can totally see that because 2016 is, it's almost 10 years ago. It's a long time
Yeah.
ago. I'm curious, what got you into doing the PCT back then?
So honestly, I was at a big transitional point in my life. I had a lot of changes with my job, and I was going through a divorce and moved, and it was kind of just like I needed a shakeup, and I kind of took everything. I mean, my life had been very, I don't know if prescribed is the right word, but I had done a lot of the things that I was expected to do as far as school. Got my PhD when I was 27 and went to work. And, through hiking had always been something that I was like, oh, someday when I am retired. Um, and then it's almost like I took my life and kind of threw the pages up into a fan and like watched them just scatter around me. um, that's what that period in my life kind of felt like, for better and for worse. And the PCT was just part of that. It was an opportunity to just go do something that seemed like a dream, something completely different. And I think, as is typical for most people, it changed my life. I tell people it ruined my life in the best way, because it changed how I look at everything and how I wanted to live my life. So Simon, like what you said about, yeah, hiking, backpacking is wonderful, but with trail running, you can cover more ground, so you can actually have a job. And so I was working at a restaurant here in Bend, and so I could be out all day and climb mountains and run trails, and then go to work at 4 or 5. So it worked.
Yeah, that's really cool. And for me, doing the PCT would definitely be the dream. And obviously, people always say, "Do you do the AT, the PCT, the CDT?" PCT would be number one. For anyone listening who's not familiar, especially people outside of the US, a PCT or Pacific Crest Trail is going from Mexico all the way to Canada. You go through the US doing that, starting on the West Coast, and you go through a lot of different mountain range. Big ones like the Sierra Nevadas in California. You face desert close to, I guess, LA or kind of Southern California. And what is it, like 1,000 mile or 1,200
Um,
miles?
2,600.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
well,
a lot more than
but
that.
the
Yeah.
California is a big portion of
Oh,
it,
Oh,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
it's like over half of it. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And then you blast through Oregon, and then the snow
Yeah.
comes in when you're in Washington. It's like, I gotta finish soon, otherwise I'm screwed.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
How long did it take you? About 4.5 months?
No, it's so at that point I was with someone else, and then part of like a trail family.
Hmm.
And then and at that point I was no kind of like faster athlete type person. It probably about 6 months. I think
Okay.
if I could go back, if I had done it by myself, I probably would have blasted through it pretty quickly, because that's more my style. But it was what it was, um, and it was wonderful in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
six.
feel
It's
that
6 months. Yeah. Good.
I
Go
feel
ahead.
that the big portion of that is to actually not rush through it, right? Like it's to be
Yeah.
able to, instead of being like, I gotta be somewhere, guys, I gotta be somewhere, I gotta reach Canada as soon as possible. It's really living the experience, taking your 0 days when you need them,
Yeah.
having your trail family. And if it's not a family, you probably meet people all the time, kind of leapfrogging all the time. And I think that's a big portion. At least, I mean, obviously I haven't done it, but everyone I talk to that has done it, the community aspect of it, the group aspect, and taking your time to really be in nature and disconnect from the stress of modern life and responsibility. And you got to wake up, you make your little coffee, respond to email, next thing you know it's the end of the day, you're tired, you're watching TV. Like it's no, I'm walking, I'm doing cool stuff. If I want to do 30 miles today, I do 30 miles. If I want to do 5 miles, I do 5 miles. And I think it's great that you actually did take your time, right?
It's there are a lot of different ways that you could approach a long trail like that. That I mean, my style definitely veers towards like pushing myself, going fast. Um, my partner now, part of the reason I think we work so well together is because we both love backpacking, but there's a balance. We've done a few really quite big trips together and just found a way to like, if we do less mileage to take our time and really enjoy it, and I am challenged to soak it in. Or, we hike to a certain place and then make camp, and then I scurry off and climb a peak or two, and, just kind of make it work in that way. Um, so, yeah, the PCT, in a lot of ways, it was at a challenging time in my life when I didn't advocate for myself. There were a lot of difficult things I was going through, like relationship wise, and just um, how, like, what I was going to do with my life moving forward. And um, I like to remind people that everything that can happen in life also happens when you're on trail. Like, life doesn't just pause and you have this beautiful, glorious trail moment for months on end. Like, the same things that can happen in real life, good and bad, will still happen while you're on the trail. I found that to be very true. So it was definitely a huge turning point. A lot of things learned about myself. Um, yeah.
I'm curious what kind of things still happen on trail. It sounds like there's a story behind that, right? Like you had some things in mind.
There is. I was in a relationship that was not a good one.
Yeah.
And I think I was at a part of my life when I was vulnerable. I was naive. I was um, looking to escape and to kind of change my life, and I didn't know what to do, where to go, and I saw the PCT as an opportunity to, you know a path to self discovery and adventure, and just take a moment for myself. It wasn't quite that I wasn't independent on it. Um, it was very difficult at times. I was just telling a friend today, like, in my mind, I segment it into two different experiences. One, which was very kind of heartbreaking and very difficult because of the person that I was with. Um, the other part of it was incredibly beautiful because of the generosity of so many trail angels and friends that I met along the way that are still friends today, and how beautiful the trail was. And it kind of gave me trail running, like it led me there. So, um, yeah, I had an interesting experience. But just as far as, um, the things that can happen on trail that still happen in everyday life. I mean, people can struggle with money. People can struggle with relationships. Um, People can have like mental health struggles. It doesn't stop because you're on trail,
Mhm.
and I think that's really important. And I've talked to a lot of people who feel that sentiment, which is good, to feel like you're not alone in that.
Yeah, I think I mean, what I'm hearing, I guess, is how I'm depicting it is like when we say like running is my therapy. Like it's really not. I mean, I get what people are trying to get at when they say that, but we know. I mean, I hope that we know, or at least the three of us know that there is a separation there, right? Like it's really not therapy. Like it might help me out and make me a better person today, but if I have a need for therapy, I probably should go talk to somebody and not just run, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely therapeutic.
Mhm.
I feel that all the time, but yeah, for some things, I mean, I'm a therapist trained for years, and I would agree. I mean, it's just it's about recognizing what you need and when you need it.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like the PCT fell right in your lap in the most opportune moment of your life.
It
And
did.
it.
I wouldn't change it. I don't regret it. It was beautiful and stunning, and I got so much good out of it too. So it like so many things, this dichotomy of like there were bad parts of it and really really challenging um, aspects of being on trail with someone who's not good for you. But then the rewarding parts of it just kind of blow that out of the water. So 10 out of 10, I recommend it.
Yeah, I'll tell my boss.
Yeah.
Ciao.
And I'll do it the way you did it for the full 6 months. Like take a full half year, just go do it.
Yeah.
Send me letters if you want. If you want me to answer work email, send me letters.
Yeah, a pigeon.
Pigeon, yes.
Pigeon mail. Emily, you get back from PCT and what'd you say? You got talked into like a 50K or something, and then obviously did the progressions to and where have you gone since then? I mean, like, did you do Moab? I can't remember if you did Moab.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What year was that?
20 was it 2020? I think.
Was it the COVID year?
I think it was the COVID year because it was like late 2020 or was it 2021?
I think we did it together in 2020. We met at Moab, but I can't remember if you were on course with me or if you were volunteering or I was volunteering.
No, I think it was. I think it was 2020. And that was I was thinking about that earlier today. That was when we met.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've done a lot with Moab, haven't you?
I tried this year. I did a third of it.
But like, I mean, just involvement.
Yes. I've been there every year except for 2018.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, man, what a burn!
Just straight to the.
You gotta behave. Come on.
Wow, you did your homework on me, apparently.
No, I meant I was listening to Candace's podcast, and you like listed out all the different aid stations you volunteered at, and like who you paced, and anyway.
Yeah. I love Leadville. I've only missed 2018, but I did DNF this year for an Achilles issue that I'm still actually working through, unfortunately. But I'll be back.
It happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one that has never seen it, but I'm supposed to go this year. Well, so excited about that for sure. Yeah. I'll ask a question eventually.
Oh my gosh,
but you did great, right? I mean, didn't you do like 70 hours or something crazy like that?
At Moab,
You have some solid time. That's all I want to say. I might mix them up, but I was impressed. I was like, dang, girl.
Moab was good. That was my first 200, and I was definitely more concerned about my crew having a good time. And I was also very concerned about having pizza and a margarita at, I think it was Road 42, one of the aid stations.
Road 46, yeah.
Road 46. And one of my friends who's on my crew, it was like her life's mission to get tequila for me. And it was a Sunday, and they don't sell tequila on Sundays.
They don't.
In Utah. She literally like approached someone in the grocery store parking lot who said they had tequila at home and they got it for her. So I was greeted with like, and it was the
Holy
moment
smokes.
in the movie Home Alone when Kevin McAllister is presented with like his own personal cheese pizza. That's always my dream. Like I love that moment, that cinematic moment so much. So I got that at that aid
Is
station.
your friend
That's so
available
great.
for me for Leadville next year?
Maybe. I had quite a crew, but so all that to say, in that race, I definitely was wanting to have a good time with my crew, do silly things, make sure everyone was enjoying themselves. I had no strategy. I definitely crashed and burned after Road 46. Like we climbed way up into the mountains, and I got freezing, and almost I was like catatonic at one of the aid stations at night. Um, but like I had all these weird instances where I'd be just super on the struggle bus, and then I'd pick up a new pacer. And I remember one of my proudest moments was I picked up a pacer and I went from like physically not being able to run to let's try to run. And then I sprinted so fast that I made my pacer puke. And I was just like, where did this come from?
Is that the one that drank the tequila?
No, a different one. But it was just such a wild ride. Since then, I've run a few more 200s and kind of nailed down strategy and focused a little bit more. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot
well,
of
I
fun.
think when we do a new distance, at least for me, the first time I don't know what I'm doing, but then I end up doing pretty well because I don't know what I'm doing, if that makes sense. And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I can improve this, improve that, and next time it doesn't go nearly as well for whatever reason. Like by far my
Totally.
best 100 mile is my first one, and I look back and I was like, wow, like I was really pacing stupidly. I should have blown up, but for some
Mhm.
reason it didn't happen. Same thing with Cocodona this year; it just went smoothly. I was like, oh, it's not too hard, and then you try to improve, and then you just make it worse. So
That's,
tequila is the way to go, apparently.
I mean, I think I'm reaching the point where like you try a new distance and then try to nail some things down like sleep strategy and eating and all of that, but then you reach a point where you've done all of those things, and now it's just up to the race gods. Are you going to have a good race or not? And these really long distances, it's tough to I mean, there's such a time investment, financial investment, that you can't just stack them up one after another to like compare and see what you've learned and really have like a super solid trajectory. It just takes so much time. So it's such a curious, um, you know, process of running multiples.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's a big investment. It's an investment for yourself, but also, if you have a crew and pacer, especially your long race like that, it's a big investment for them too. They're gone for a week from work or whatever they're doing to support you. And I think it's great that you had the mindset, hey, I want to make sure they have a good time. And then, of course, I love the contrast of I want to make sure they have a good time. I ran so fast, my pacer was puking. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. But
I
but
know.
overall, like the concept of like let's we're doing this together. Let's have a good time, not stress them too much. And I think pacers and crew usually, if you don't stress them, they have a better time, and it's just better for everyone. They will be more relaxed when they support you. They will be efficient, and they're gonna be happy. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that to be more low key with my crew, or like one of my best crewmates, Alex. He actually won in the Ultra Sign Up has the trail running or the trail running is weird awards or something, and I nominated him and he won for the best crew pacer, and he truly was because I could just say, hey, I'm going to do this race. Can you take care of all of the logistics? And he
Did
would just
did
take it on, um, and so I could just focus on running and not worry about like what my crew was doing. He had such a handle on it, so that was amazing. But it is such a gift. Like if you want to feel loved, go run a really long race and just get some pacers, because to have people with you like right there with you when you're suffering and sometimes at your worst self, and to have them by your side supporting you and helping you achieve something. I mean, that it's so generous and it's humbling and it feels amazing. It just, yeah, so much love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, finding the right pacer and crew is pretty important also, because you will be vulnerable and you want someone you're comfortable being vulnerable with, but also someone that you know has your best interests at heart and will be caring and on top of things. For me, I went the other way around. I married someone and then I made sure she would pace me all the time. It works too. It's
I've got that going on too. So
yes, that's the easiest way to solve it.
I tried it. I tried it in my first Leadville in 2010. My wife paced me for the last 5 miles, and we argued for 4 miles of that 5.
that's
She'll never
amazing.
pace me again. Yeah, she'll never pace me again. But lesson learned, and we didn't get divorced from it. It was only 5 miles, luckily. It was
amazing.
short and sweet.
Keddie, if you're watching, we love you. But she's crewing though, Brian, and she's taking care of the kids. So she does
crews,
quite a lot actually.
She does come out and crew a lot, but she won't set foot on the course with me anymore.
I heard there's stories about the headlamp or something, and I don't want to restart some PTSD there, so we should change topic.
So anyway, Emily, what have you been up to this year? Well, I know what you've been up to. Why don't you tell us what you've been up to, and maybe how you came up with the idea for this crazy off-the-wall challenge, why it came to fruition. Let's talk about it. 2024,
Sure.
What's going on?
Yeah, I decided early in the year that I wanted to try to do 2 million feet of vertical elevation gain and do it through like running and all the activities I enjoy: mountain biking, skiing, hiking, and there is a fair amount of stair mill involved as well. Mostly because I also intended to see if I could have a full race season and to experiment and see if I could also perform well in races, and just what that would look like. And I also wanted to see if I could have a balanced life, which sounds goofy just saying that, but meaning like be a good partner, show up for my friends, not have a situation where none of my friends want to invite me for running anymore because it's too flat, and just be able to do fun things like walk the dog and cook dinners at home and travel and show up to my partner's kids like basketball games and stuff like that, and so just essentially not have it just consume my entire life. I set the goal in February. It was actually near Black Canyon, so I was a good chunk into the year, and I'm no stranger to enjoying vert. Like I usually ski uphill an awful lot, but it was after I had gone to Chile at the end of last year on a kind of group project, and I got back and I just really wanted a focus for 2024, and I wanted some big goal that I could work on throughout the year. And it was very early in the year I saw that Hillary Allen had posted something about I think it was 2023, according to Strava, she had done 1.6 million vertical feet. And I look up to her and, she's a hilly goat. She does tons of vert. And I thought, well, that's like a professional athlete. I wonder if I could do that. And then my friend Wendy was like, oh, if you do 5,000 feet a day, like do that. That's our local, like popular mountain here in Bend is South Sister, and it's a 5,000 foot ascent. And she was like, it's it's like a South Sister every day. And I did the math though, and it was 1.85 million or something like that. And that just it wasn't a nice even number. So I just, I bumped it up to 2 because that's what a normal person would do. And so that it was like 5,464 feet a day, every day for a leap year. So 366 days. And so when I settled on that number and said, I'm going to go for that, I was quite a ways behind. I think it was like between I don't know, maybe around 2 weeks behind schedule. And so I had a bit of catching up to do, but yeah, that was, and then I had my race schedule kind of forming at that time, and it was just like, here we go, let's do this, and see what happens.
So Bend, Oregon. I've never been.
Yeah.
I don't have no idea. So there's a lot of vert in the area. There's you have access to all this stuff there. Apparently, I mean, I imagine so. You got it done, right?
Yes and no. I mean, and so I did get it done, but I got to do it in so many places this year. But Bend, Oregon, so we do have like the Cascade volcanoes that go through Central Oregon. There is vert. I've learned a lot this year about efficient vert, which oftentimes is not like climbing the entirety of a volcano, but is finding the steepest possible slope
Mm-hmm.
and doing lots of repeats on it. So I've enjoyed a lot of that, but yeah, we do have, like, we have a few 10,000 foot volcanoes right, within a half hour of where I live. And in town, like, we have lots of running trails, beautiful trail running, beautiful mountain biking. Um, but in the wintertime, the mountains, get dumped on in snow. We have a pretty long winter here too, so the mountains get harder to access unless you have a snowmobile. The roads close, so you can't, drive to the trailheads anymore. So like right now, I'm dealing with, closures. I haven't been into the big mountains in quite a while. So it's either travel and go somewhere else, or make do with the smaller hills we have in town, which usually max out at about 1,000 feet of gain. So,
I did some homework on Strava myself yesterday before this recording, and I saw. I mean, and I only backed up to like 2 weeks ago, and I kind of skimmed your thing, but I saw that you were doing. I think you did 26 miles, maybe last weekend or the weekend prior, sometime recently, fairly recently, and you did like 16 summits of the same, just like basically up and down, and it looked like some sort of like power line trail or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just like, and I thought it was like
yeah.
800 or 900 feet per ascent, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like you just see the, like, it looked like jagged teeth, like a saw blade in the
Yeah.
Strava profile. I was like, holy smokes, that's
Yeah.
that's like mind numbing, right? I mean, how do you
It
get through that?
it is, so that was Monday. I had on Monday I had about 17,000 feet left to get to 2 million. So I just hit it Monday night, and it's Thursday. And I thought I was going to spread that out over at least 2 days, and then I just thought, no, I want to be done. I want to finish it. I want to go big last day. And so that was it. I mean, it was a really efficient trail that I was on. It is absolutely mind numbing, but um, you know, I feel like I have had such a beautiful year. Like, the way I think about the 2 million, like the Vert Year project, um, it was never about 2 million. That's a completely arbitrary number. I wanted it really to be just a beautiful collection of like things that I went for, like races and FKTs and backpacking trips, and then and memories of like climbing mountains with the kids and traveling to other countries, and running in different states, and fitting in the vert um, the best way that I could without it absolutely taking over my life, and trying to still show up in other areas. And I just wanted the vert to be like the thread that runs through everything, so that when I looked back on the year, um, it would be like a puzzle. I could see all the pieces put together. That is what really made me feel excited about the project, and that is exactly what I got from it. It is just all of this collection of memories and places that Vert took me. And so at this point in the year, like, I am so okay with mind numbing activities, because my brain is a little tired also, but um, I I don't mind some monotony. Um, because I've had so much excitement and there've been just so many big
Mm.
events and races and things. I love the opportunity to spend hours like listening to new music or tuning into podcasts and or sharing it. Like today I was out there actually at the same place doing some on the same trail for part of it. I mean that on Monday I exclusively stayed on the same exact trail all day, kind of just to be an asshole, like kind of just to because it made me giggle a little bit that it was absurd that I would just
Hmm.
do that. And like that was how I was going to finish the project. And I just finishing the project needed no big fanfare, but um, I can go out with friends and do repeats or be in one area and just explore all the trails in that area. Um, and just the conversation is what matters. I'm so used to going up and down all year now that my legs just do it. So it I'm not craving beautiful views and beautiful places now. I am just disciplined to get it done. I don't need the motivation of fresh trails and beautiful views. I mean, I certainly love it. I got to go up to Portland area, and climb Mount Hood a few days ago, and but you know, not every day can be a wild adventure. Um, and when you're doing a huge project like that, where you're devoting almost part of almost every single day to it, you got to accept that some are going to be boring or less exciting, and just make it good somehow. So
You talked about the lack of fanfare at the crossing of the 2 million foot mark, and I saw your post. But will you tell us what that was? I mean,
yeah,
I saw the post, but can you explain to us where you were at 2 million feet
yeah.
and
So
who with? I guess, yeah.
yeah. So on Monday I had 17,000. So I did 16,500 at just um, my local hill that I enjoy, um, and then I had to coach or assistant coach a basketball game for one of my partner's oldest teenager, and I thought that would be a good idea to take that on in December when I'm trying to like still do a huge. I'm trying to make December my biggest month of the year, even though I've passed 2 million, because it's vert year and not vert like 433 days or however long it was.
Hmm.
So I intend to finish strong, but um, so the last 500 feet. There's a Pilot Butte is this 500-foot hill in the middle of Bend, and everybody, like all the runners, run it, and it's just beautiful at night with all like the city lights sparkling. You get 360 views, and during the day you can see all the mountains. So I was just like, this. It's such a normal place to be, and so I went with my partner Dan and his son and my dog Jolly, because they're the ones. I mean, they have seen me the most out of anybody throughout this whole process, and I've shared it with so many people. It's been incredible, but Dan and Atlas have seen me stumble in the door and shovel food into my mouth and crash very early in the evening, and just I think they understand like what it has entailed and what it's meant. And they've also done a bunch of the vert with me too. So um, I just there was no way to get all of the people I would have wanted to be at a big finish together. Um, and I just at the end of the day also it's my stupid goal and um, everybody's got big things they're working towards, and this isn't any bigger than someone's goal to run their first ultra marathon that they're working really hard for. It's different. I mean, it's massive, right? It's bigger in some senses, but it's not more important than someone else's goal. So I wanted really to like keep that moment for myself, and as a reminder too, like how they say like nobody cares you run ultras, like all year it's been like nobody cares if I get out of bed and if I do my vert for the day. I have to want it and I have to be disciplined enough to make it happen, because at the end of the year, everybody is really excited for me. But on, July 17th or March 3rd or, October 28th, like nobody's out there cheering for me to make it happen. And it just felt like the right way to wrap it up, very like low key, and it felt good. And then we drank champagne, and I just wanted to have like Thai takeout at home on the couch, so I got that.
That's great. That's great. Let's talk about some of the races you did in the during the project as well. And I thought we've already, maybe it was offline, I can't remember, but I thought you already mentioned Black Canyon.
Yeah,
But what
that
what
was
else?
the first
What else?
one.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so Black
And what else?
Canyon.
So it started with Black Canyon. Where did you go from there?
Yeah. Then I ran Lake Sonoma 50 mile in April. And it kind of got progressively better in terms of my performance, I think, because I didn't taper for any races this year. I was doing like 5,000 feet of vert like the day before every single race. Some of it on stair mill, some of it on skis, but like it was just wild. Pretty goofy, like, because people don't do that generally. And um, anyway, so Black Canyon was a little bit rough, but like totally acceptable, and I was very happy with finishing. Then Lake Sonoma, that went well. I then ran, I think Ouray might have been next. There, I also had some FKTs sprinkled in, which I treat in my mind like races, um, just as far as like the effort and preparing for that. But yeah, Ouray was next, and that went super well and was such a blast. And I'm hoping to do it again this summer.
Yeah, you were
Maybe.
flying. I
Yeah,
saw the
38
time
hours.
yeah,
It was
Simon and I have both done
so.
Ouray as well.
It's bizarre. I mean, it's crazy, right? I passed the finish line, and I think the first thing I said to the race director was like, "Can we go back and do it again?" And there's been like there was a little bit of chatter about people doing like a double Ouray, which sounds just heinous and delightful. So I'm
I
wondering
mean, what
if
would be
that.
good is to do a hard rock and Ouray.
Mm-hmm.
It
They're
would-
back to back.
Okay, I have to credit my friend Scott Martin, because it would be called the U Rock, which you rock. But like doing hard rock right before Ouray. I didn't get into hard rock, so that sadly, that would be so cool. And or even like doing the soft rock in that week before, and then timing it to just kind of go right into Ouray. No, that would be amazing. Yeah. So Ouray, and at that point, I think I was like, this is my race. I mean, 2 million feet of vert is not a training plan for anything, but I think it did give me a lot of strength that was useful for Ouray. And then let's see, that was July. I did a huge 18-day backpacking trip in the Sierra from late July through August, that like off trail and a lot of peak bagging, which was a totally different speed for me, but was a lot of conditioning as well. And then I went to Europe. My intention was to run the Swiss Peaks 200 miler, which essentially is like 2 of Ouray. 200 miles, over 200, 80,000 feet. Started it, didn't enjoy it. And I say that like knowing that a 200, it's not necessarily like enjoyable in every sense, but I didn't love it. I was just very much not having a good time. And I remember going through an aid station, and my partner was there, and I like left the aid station, turned around, came back, left it, turned around, came back. I wanted to drop so badly. And then I finally decided to leave, and I started just kind of trudging away like Eeyore so sad. Um, and I was running through this little town maybe a mile later, and I hear my name being called, and I look, and it's two of my friends who live in Colorado, uh, just like jumping up and down in the street, and I'm like, what are they doing here? I don't had no idea. They were they were there for UTMR, and I had known that they were going to run that race. I had no idea that it was like at the exact same time, and that they were going to be in a town that I was running through. Um, so I like cried. I was so happy to see them. I was in such a low moment, and they were joking like, "Oh, you could drop out and join our race." Ha 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 ha. And so we said goodbye, and I got maybe another mile running down into this valley, and I thought, like, it's so beautiful here. I'm just really not enjoying this at all. This is not like I can't do this, or I'm not prepared. There's something else going on here, and I feel like when it's time to drop from a race. It's not for you, and it's hard because if you're not injured, it's hard to justify. But I sat down on the curb and I stopped my watch, and that was the signal, like, it's done. I called for a ride, pick me up, and then I talked to my friends, and they were like, "No, you should really join." And then I also heard from this woman Jackie that I met at URay, and she was also going to be running UTMR. And she said, "Well, I know the race director, and here's her email address. Shoot her a message and see if you can get in." And it started 2 days later. I emailed, there was an opening, someone had dropped out late. I paid the registration fee, and I just pivoted immediately from Swiss Peaks to UTMR, the stage race version. And I was just so happy to now be going into a race that sounded beautiful, a change of pace, and with my friends, and that was amazing. So I did that, had a blast, had a wonderful time. That, and then after that, I think
Can we pause
yeah,
there for a minute?
of course.
I'm just thinking about like the Swiss Alps. Was it like, just to go back to it? I mean, we don't need to linger on it, but like,
Yeah.
was it the event itself? Like, was it like just poorly operated or something, or was
Um,
or was it all just you, or was it a combination of both, or just kind of a
I
flat moment for yourself and not into it? What was going on there?
I think there were a lot of things. I didn't love the course, and I wanted to. I and I mean I love really gross, steep, off trail terrain. So I don't know what it was. I wasn't enjoying the course. Um, there are so many beautiful trails and routes throughout Europe. Um, I've been on really beautiful, really rugged, steep trails, and it just, this one didn't speak to me. There were some issues with, and maybe I don't have a huge tolerance for like rule breaking, and I guess I didn't understand that I saw a lot of it, and it bothered me, and it didn't have to bother me or affect my race or anything like that, but I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. Um, and from what I've heard from some people, like that was kind of a known thing. Just things like getting aid outside of aid stations, or having your crew, like people being in crew vehicles, like at points between aid stations where it wasn't allowed, like cutting the course. That stuff, it doesn't have to affect your race, right? Like, it didn't have to affect me. Maybe it was just the first time that occurred, and so it did. Um, and next time I will just like not pay any attention to it. Um, and it just also, and at the starting line, I was really intimidated. I Again, things that I mentally have already prepared myself for the next race, which, like this coming year, I'm gonna race in Romania, so I'm like, okay, let's apply all these lessons that I've learned. But At the starting line for Swiss Peaks, a lot of the instructions were not in English. And okay, like, of course, international race. It was very overwhelming. It wasn't like warm and fuzzy. Like, for example, like some of the 200s in the US are very warm and fuzzy and supportive. It felt just intimidating. Even the runners looked really strong and gung ho, and I was in tears at the starting line. I've never had that happen. I didn't want to start, and then once I did, I kind of got into my groove. But it was a huge learning opportunity for me. So I don't think there was anything particularly bad about it. I'm really tempted to try it again, just with a different approach to even starting the race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's good to hear. I'm probably going to try it this year. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it's good.
I mean,
it's good to hear. I did Tour des Géants just, like this year. So it's the
okay.
natural evolution, really.
Oh, yeah. My plan was to do Tour de Jean this year. And then if I finish that, the other one that's harder.
The glaciers?
Yes.
Tour de Glacier.
I think I might skip this year and then see what happens. Partly because I just don't have the money to throw at a bunch of things, because I definitely blew through some savings this year. But I mean, I still recommend it. I think it was mostly just me and situational and mindset and things you learn.
But I think maybe it was, you know yourself best. And I've had races that were totally fine. Well, one in particular that I was just not in the mood. I still did it, but I was like, I'm not enjoying it, but everything is fine. Seeing people cheat is rough. I've definitely seen it in the US, though. I don't think that's specific for Europe. I mean,
No.
it gets to me, not to the point where I want to drop back. I do get grumpy. And one that is super common is pacer muling stuff for their runner. And then you see, like, for example, you go through the night and I'm freezing my ass because I barely have enough clothing, and they have like huge layer, and you see them later and their backpack is empty, and like the pacer has a huge backpack. It's like, that's bullshit.
I know.
Not to the point where I drop. I was like, that's bullshit, and I have it on camera and I could prove it, but I'm gonna. But one thing that you kind of alluded to a little bit that did strike me, because I always raced in the US before, but this year I finally got my passport and was able to do Tour des Géants, but also did Diagonale des Fous, which I guess is kind of European in a way. It's very French. The trail running culture is different. I definitely saw the difference. And here it's in the US, it's very kumbaya and let's help each other out, non-competitive. Whereas over there, especially Diagonale des Fous, people were playing elbows a little bit. People were not careful about the environment, throwing plastic bottle. There was a conga line at some point, like a huge traffic jam on the trail. And like everyone, 95% of the people are just waiting in line, but some people would kind of go around and bypass people. And it also did not sit super well with me. Not to the point where I wanted to actually drop, but to the point where I was like, that's not my vibe. And hopefully Swiss 360 won't be like that when I go there. But I definitely saw the difference. Even Tour des Géants, I loved the race, and most people were fine, but there were definitely differences that it depends what you're looking for a little bit. So I think it's not necessarily just you. It could be, it could be it's just in your head, but there's something to be said there.
I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Part of why I'm really tempted to go back and either try that one again or Tour de Jeans is just it. You also get out of it like what you put in, and I think when I was at the starting line, I had spent several days there already. Doing some backpacking and going to some really beautiful places and staying up in one of those.
Refugio?
Yes.
I don't know how they would call it over there, but yeah.
And I almost felt like spoiled that I was there and already just in these beautiful places. And so as soon as it became uh, less fun and a struggle, it was just a weird mental swing, I guess, and that didn't work well for me.
Yeah.
But the pivot was nice, and I felt, I mean, 100%. I think I made the right decision. I I did, oh, I forget how many, 70 or 90 miles of Swiss Peaks, and then went into the other race, and then when the other race was over, went on another backpacking trip. Um, so it felt like the right thing, and I still think that was just the right choice in the moment. Right, you make decisions with the information that you have in
Yeah.
the moment, and that was what was right. But
Yeah. And I think, there's something to be said also that you do a lot of FKT or whatever. We don't have to call them FKT, but kind of long distance, which would be the equivalent of doing a Swiss 360, but you do it by yourself. And at least for myself, the difference between you do it by yourself, which is great, and a race, there's advantages to both. When you race, the key advantage for me is the community, is the people that I meet. Whereas doing it by yourself, you have the freedom to go wherever you want, whatever pace you want. It's less of a shit show. There's more freedom and there's a bigger sense of adventure. So if you don't have the sense of community as much, it's going to be rough to enjoy a race. And I don't know how big Swiss 360 is, but Tour des Géants is a big ass race. Diagonale des Fous is a big ass race. Like it feels more like doing a marathon than trail running. And because of that, if you cannot connect with people, if there's a language barrier, it's going to be very tricky. I do have the advantage for Tour des Géants and eventually for Swiss 360. I do speak French. So I could communicate with most people fairly efficiently. In Vallée d'Aosta and Tour des Géants, yeah, they will speak Italian first. I would kind of like, I don't understand. I'll try English. But then I remember they probably speak French. And I switch to French, and then we're best buddies right away. But if you cannot have this connection, it's gonna be tricky. So I can see
yeah,
that.
you nailed it. That was definitely a huge factor. And again, something that to go over there and race again, I would now know that going in. Um, it was isolating. I mean, I would hear someone speaking in English and like gravitate because
Yeah.
I love that about racing, is connecting with people, meeting and talking, and I felt like a little lost girl in like this hardcore scary place, and it just, I think once that set in, it was really, really hard to shake. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I did the Fuji, and I
mhm.
definitely don't speak Japanese, and they mostly don't speak English. And you think like I don't need to understand what they're saying. But for example, I remember distinctively at the Nate station there were two like jug of some liquid, and they were obviously different. And then the lady like point to one and says something, point to the other and says something else. I assume she was probably saying like, this is what caffeine, this is without caffeine. I have no freaking clue. Maybe she said like, this one will give you diarrhea, this one, like, it's like I don't know, and I just take the wrong one. And like it's little things like that that make it harder. But at the same time, you would run by people in the crowd, and they would be shouting, and I'm like, it seems they're not angry at me. So I'm guessing they're saying, good job, bro, looking strong, keep it up. And there are things that would still be, somewhat communicated that was great. But once on trail, surrounded by people that couldn't communicate with me, was very like, I'm in a crowd, but I'm alone, which is
Yeah.
not the great feeling. I'd rather be either alone or with people, not in a crowd alone. It's just, I don't know. It's not a great feeling. For Fuji, for example, nothing against the race. I love my experience, but for sure, that's a weird feeling. So
I'm glad you say that. It is validating. So that I definitely, yeah.
wow, you you did a PhD in psychology. I hear the language. I did validation. Good job,
Yes.
Simon. So my wife is a therapist, by the way. So I
Oh,
I know the
amazing.
language too.
Yes.
Nice.
Do you hear squeaking?
Yeah.
That's my dog. Sorry. I
Oh.
Oh, kitty.
yeah. Golly. Oh, it's big giant. No, I have like learned to tune out because he loves the squeaky toys. He's this, like big dog. I tune it out. So you guys are like, "What's that noise?" And I'm like, "I don't hear anything."
Yeah.
Let's talk about the dog. What's the dog's name again? I can't remember.
Jolly.
It's the perfect name for a golden retriever.
It's a golden retriever.
He's not that.
Is
Hey,
he?
Jolly, come here.
He's not a golden retriever?
He's a German breed. Let's see if I can get his face on camera. It's called a Hovawart. There he is.
Oh, cutie.
Oh, it looks like a golden retriever.
Hi, bud. Yes, but he's like 110 pounds. And his breed is, it's meant to be like an estate guard dog. So he does a lot of like protecting his family, barking at anyone who's not, and like
when he's off duty, he squeaks a lot. Apparently, when he's off duty.
Oh yes, but he's also extremely athletic and has climbed more mountains than he ever should have been able to.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice
I saw
Charlie.
you have some picture with some of the climbs you've done with him, right?
Some of them
Sometimes
have been, it's been kind of ridiculous. Some of them actually, where I've gone with a group of friends and we're like, let's see if we can get him up to the top, and he shouldn't because they're climbing like fourth class, low fifth class. But he's big and he's getting a little bit older, so I don't take him out on his extreme things and like 30-mile runs anymore, but he's definitely been my pacer trainer buddy.
Nice. Emily, thinking of 2 million miles, you said you did a couple of different disciplines. You ran, you biked, you skied, you did a stair stepper, and you did a ton of hiking. Do you have like a rough guess on what that breakdown might look like? If you were to take a guess at it, or maybe I don't know.
I don't know yet. My friend has offered to take all my Strava data, and I guess there's a way you can export it into an Excel file.
Is this the tequila person? Is this just one friend? She drinks tequila.
Different friend. But so that'll be something. I'm such an idiot. I hand wrote all of my data. And then like used highlighters to color coordinate what activities. Like that was that's Jolly. Why I didn't put it on a computer in a spreadsheet from the beginning, I didn't anticipate. I guess I didn't anticipate that it would be something that I'd want to know. Really useful. I'm not too sure. I tried to keep for instance, the stair mill, I tried to keep it under like 15% of the total. There was a lot of that around races and around traveling, because that was one of my things. Like if we were going to take the kids snowboarding, I would go to the gym really early in the morning, get my vert, like 5,000 feet or whatever, and then have a day of snowboarding downhill. And part of that was like, I don't want to sacrifice that time. I also didn't anticipate that I would blast past 2 million. So I didn't know how close I would come to the goal. And I wanted to make sure that I got it. So any day that I could do something, I would do that. The uphill skiing was pretty limited to through May of this year. It was the majority of what I did for the first several months. Until a binding broke, and it was spring anyway, so I didn't bother to continue. And then I haven't started it yet because I joined like a couple of Strava challenges, and like Aravipa Running does their like Mary Vertness, and so that's only running, and another competition, another challenge. I'm trying to win a free pair of shoes. Anyway. So I am strictly running till the end of the year, which is fine.
Was there any point in the year, or like October, where you were like, man, I need to step on the gas pedal, I'm falling a little behind, or were you always kind of in the ballpark? Any anomalies, anything give you some like thought?
Yeah, I started the year, so I didn't set my goal till like well into February, so I had to catch up quite a bit. But I caught up so much that I hit my first million on May 31st, so I was a month ahead. But I also wanted to be ahead of schedule because we had a huge backpacking trip planned, and there was quite a bit of vert in it, but not the amount. It wasn't like 5,500 feet a day. Although I kind of did make it come close, but I wanted to make sure I was far enough ahead that trip wouldn't. I could just forget about it. I could relax and just focus on the trip and not worry about vert. And then same thing with going to Europe. I just didn't want to be like panicked while I was traveling. And then I kind of ramped. So actually, the nicest months of the year when I would have done the most were actually my lowest vert months. I think like July, August, September, and then I picked it up again, and kind of just the closer I got to it, the more motivated I was to finish, and just went pretty hard at it. And it became a game. People were like, "Oh, you're so far," and I would get days ahead of schedule. I'd be like, "Now I'm 9 days ahead. Now I'm 11 days ahead," and I think I finished like 22 days ahead. And people started asking like, "Oh, have you changed your goal? Are you going to try to do more?" And I didn't really want to set another goal beyond that, but it'll be significantly higher, I think, by the time I'm ending my year in Hawaii, like doing flat things. So I think by the time I'm there, it'll be a pretty high number above. But yeah, I got to get that vert miss competition. I mean, I'm very determined.
Well, where you're standing it, or is it like a public? Do you know where everyone else stands? So do you know where you're currently
I
at,
do.
or is it?
I'm winning.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All right.
doing. I'm averaging like 11,000 feet a day right now, or something. Really.
That's easy though. I mean, I laugh, but it's probably easy now. You've been doing it for 11 months now.
It's double time. But it's fun. I do have a contingent of friends who are equally as like willing to suffer and like hills. So I often have company, and in my mind, so much of the year has been about just learning that it's not about being motivated. It's about discipline. It's about having momentum, and momentum, as long as you keep going, is really easy to continue whatever you're doing. But once you stop or let off the gas pedal, it is hard to resume or to push harder. So it is hard. And at this point, it's like, how many hours, if I'm out for 7 or 8 hours in the day doing hills, that's really exhausting. It's a ton of food to eat. It's a ton of sleep that you need. But also, there's only 13 more days till Christmas. So in my mind, I'm like, of course I can do this for a little bit longer. I've been doing it all year. I'll make it happen. Suffer a little.
You can
more.
eat a half a gas station strawberry rhubarb pie too at the trailhead.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's one of my favorite things that I've had while doing vert this year. I mean, it's like being in a 200-mile race. Like, you get to an aid station and you just start eating whatever looks good and as much of it as you can. That is the story of my life right now.
Well, that's awesome. A huge congratulations. That is a giant feat. In researching your Strava, I pulled up my own Strava and it gave me the year in review. And I'm not really close, but I'm right behind you at 289,000 feet.
Hey, you know what? Numbers are just numbers. I mean, before this year, I don't think I had broken 500,000 ever. So it was totally like uncharted territory. I have just a massive appreciation for people pushing themselves and setting goals, because it's all relative. And however much someone is doing it, it doesn't matter. There's no point in comparing. And the joy of it all is just pushing yourself and living a good life, loving what you're doing, being a good human, working hard. Like, um, I love that about the goal, and I feel just incredibly fortunate to have had such a really beautiful year. So
Yeah, I mean it's really, and you said it. It's about being consistent. That's what for me is really impressive in what you did, because I think also people, it's hard to visualize 2 million of anything really, and 2 million feet of vert in a year. It's a very abstract number, and even if you say 5,500, or I don't know what you'll end up as the average feet a day, it sounds like, well, 5,000 is not that much. Like you said at the beginning, oh, you just climbed that mountain, that's fine.
yeah.
But in terms of hours, like that's probably 3, 4, maybe 5 hours on average every day, right? Like of actual, running. And if it's only running, it's probably gonna translate to, I don't know what, 15 mile, some at least, to get to
Um,
5,000 feet.
I mean,
It's gonna be a
yeah,
lot, right?
I can get that down to like 8 miles in some places, but it
Okay.
adds up. I mean, that's not always like, I do go on longer runs and, run with friends who have other goals too. And, yeah, I mean, I think I'm over like 3,600 miles for the year. So as much as I tried to keep the mileage down, because my brain was always like, all right, if you're going to do this much vert, you should minimize the miles as much as you can. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, and those miles are running miles. Like, that's not the skiing or biking
Yeah.
Sure.
miles. But um, yeah, um, it's wild to think about. The 2 million, the closest thing that I could relate it to throughout the year was just dollars, because right, like 2 million of anything is really abstract and hard to
Is it?
imagine. So I would think of $2 million, and I think, oh, if I got $1 for every step up that I took this year, I was like, that's a lot of work for $2 million. And I mean, I would take it, but like, it's just a lot of time. And then I think like, oh, $2 million, and then in terms of how much money some people in the world have, that's so much more than that, which makes
Yeah.
2 million seem small. And I'm like, how does this number seem both massive and at other times small? And then my brain explodes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's a crazy thing, and I highly encourage it and recommend it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, the point about, it's a whole tangent about like what big numbers actually mean. Yeah, like someone who has $10 billion, it's such an abstract number. Like, it sounds easy, 10 billion. I understand what that means, but what does it actually mean? It's like, well, they could buy a new house every single day for every single time they go sleep somewhere, and they would still make more money than they spend. Like, that's the outrageous amount of money 10 billion is. So 2 million feet is a lot. I think I did
Yeah.
something like 500 or 600 this year, and I have the same mileage that you have, more or less, I think.
Well,
So
and that's a lot of vert. Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think people would say that I run a fair amount, and mostly, I mean, a lot in the mountain. Although I do treadmill and I do it flat, so for sure I could kind of tweak it, but not to 2 million. That's crazy. Like, I can appreciate what that actually means, because I'm not like abstractly so far. It's just I would need to
yeah,
do 4 times more vert. I was like, oh, whoa,
yeah,
whoa,
steep.
that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's like doing the equivalent of a Uray every week,
yeah,
more
Here,
or
I got
less,
it.
like forty
I got.
thousand a week.
yeah.
I'm on your Strava right now, and well, I really think of like a triathlete, and only reason because they're multi-sporters, and
Yeah,
that's the reason I was associating to it. And you did some multi-sport, so to put it in a little bit of different context, I'm not sure if you wore your watch or logged every. I guess you logged the vertical, so you must have had your watch on. But the hours that you spent training this year, or at least on Strava, it says it's 1,126 hours. I rounded up to 1,200 hours, just because it's a whole number. And I divided it by 24, and that comes out to 50 days. So that's
that's a
50
lot.
days of training. So in the whole year of
Yeah,
265 or 66 on leap year, I guess. So
yeah,
yeah, so So
Yeah.
more of a better picture of maybe what it looked like for a time constraint.
Yeah, I mean the time that we use when we measure these things is 2,000 hour would be a full year of working 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2080, yeah.
So it
2080
was
is
not
the full-time
exactly
employment.
your full-time job, but you're getting up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then like when it's like, traveling to the trailhead
Yep.
and,
Resting
recovery, rest, and, just the extra feeding yourself. I mean, just the amount of time, like it is exhausting to go to do that and then go and do other tasks throughout the day. You have to be,
Yeah.
especially on the bigger days, you have to be so focused on what needs to be done and setting yourself up for the next day and taking care of yourself, so the wheels don't fall off.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're definitely eligible for benefits with that many hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish.
Emily,
what is next for you? What does the future hold for you?
I'm starting to plan a race schedule very gingerly for next year, mostly just for financial reasons. I have a couple of things planned. I'm hoping to run the Mendocino Coast 50K in April. I'm on the wait list, but I'm not very far down, so I think I'll get in. And then I'm going to Romania with a couple friends to run the Transylvania 100K, and that's in May. June, I've got there's a really cool new race popping up, a very long race on the eastern side of the Sierra that's going to be hopefully in 2026. I think I'm allowed to say all this because it's already been posted on social media, but and there's going to be kind of like a pre-running of that with a handful of people. So I was invited to do that. And I don't know. There is a handful of races I'm really intrigued by. I am still trying to think of another goal, not quite as intense as this. Maybe a small collection of FKTs or some longer trail FKTs. Maybe a lot of writing because I haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to that. And maybe a little bit of running coaching. I've been interested in that, and I think maybe have some decent experience to offer, and maybe help some people go for some goals. That sounds really fun. So we'll see. Maybe some like the opposite of going uphill. So like skydiving, scuba diving. Maybe
Nice. That's
some
a
down
great
activities.
that's a great mix, actually. Yeah.
Everybody keeps, it's the joke, oh, are you going to do 3 million next year? I would love to. I would have to get paid because I can't. I just wouldn't be able to afford it, and it's just that would be a full-time job. I would go for it if I could, but it also, I feel like this year has been so indulgent. Just to be able to spend a whole year, I've been very lucky with a really supportive partner and like network of friends. So it feels like it's just been really indulgent to be able to pour my effort into this.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to all your adventures. Where can our listeners find you at?
Yeah, I'm in Strava, just under my name, Emily Keddie. I post to Instagram, usually with frequency when my brain's not melting so much. So more in the new year, but definitely there's a lot there. At it's Emily in and then dot like Emily in period the wild, and yeah, that is. I mean, I'm on like ultra sign up for race results, but yeah.
Excellent. Well, we thank you for your time. Such a great story. So glad you reached your goal, and we were able to share it with our audience.
Brian and Simon, thank you so much. This is really a really fun and for me worthwhile conversation. I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks. We really appreciate it.